So I think we need to get out of this mindset of, oh yeah, but our centre forward needs to go left and needs to go right and needs to drop deep and needs to do this and needs to do that, and just go like Pep Guardiola did, where he swallowed his pride and went, "Look, I've been playing with false nines for years. But actually, the way to take this team to the next level and to go and win a treble, do you know what it is? It's to go and get a guy that every time the ball comes to him, he stands 100%. A very, very good chance of finding the back of the net."
And do you not think that Gyökeres fits that more than Sesko? Because when I saw a breakdown that James and Graham did, big up to both of them, by the way. Like Sesko was like, Arteta wants him because he does this on the left and this on the right, and he drops deep on the right wing here. Isn't that just another Havertz, bruv? Like I don't want another Havertz. Like I want a guy who is absolute level. Because I tell you this now, if we get Sesko, right, which is in my gut who I think we are going to end up with, right?
Me too.
I feel like we're going to start the season with Havertz up top again, bruv.
Yeah. Yeah, we will. We absolutely will. And, you know, that is going to cause meltdowns. And you know what? I rate Kai Havertz a lot more than most people do, I would say. But at the same time, I would understand why someone like yourself would be incredibly frustrated going into a new season, having spent, if we did get Sesko, 70 odd million quid on a striker. I understand why you'd be frustrated if, despite doing that, he's still the one starting up top. But I think part of the reason, and again, this is not my opinion, I'm just trying to put myself in Arsenal's shoes, right? A lot of the time people mistake me putting myself in the club's shoes for a minute, or trying to think through the prism that they do, as me being, you know, pro Arteta to the point where I'll never question. I've questioned him loads on this episode already, right? We're half an hour in.
Yeah.
My point here is that I think the way they will look at it is, if Sesko has a higher ceiling and could be the guy for the next 5 or 6 years, and they believe they can mold him into a better player than what Gyökeres can be, the fact that they have Kai Havertz there will make them feel more comfortable in doing that and going down that route, because they'll look at it and say, well, now we're bringing in a 22-year-old Benjamin Sesko for 65 million quid, 70 million quid, whatever it is. But actually, we're not solely reliant on him to provide goals from that centre forward position now. He can share that burden and that responsibility with Kai Havertz until he's ready. Now, they will argue that if you get the goals that you need, it doesn't matter if 50% of them come from Sesko and 50% of them come from Havertz, as long as you get the outputs that you need. Me personally, I don't think that's the way to go.
No,
that's not the way I would go. But if they do go for Sesko, I'm almost certain that a big part of their thinking will be, yeah, but we can afford to take the slightly bigger risk because we've got Havertz there to support him. Now, again, that's not my opinion, but I think that's the way they look at it.
Don't you think this Havertz signing has been a disgrace, though, now? Like 65 M's, 290 grand a week. But it's a problem now, Harry. It's a problem now.
Why is it a problem?
He's on 290k a week, right? Which means he can't now shift it. Whoever comes in is going to have to demand more than that, more money than that, right? And all the players we want to keep, the Sakas, Salibas, Gabriels, are all going to ask for mad money compared to that. And whatever striker we bring in, yeah, he has got to use Kai Havertz. He cannot leave him on the bench because he's 290 a week. Now, I've got no problem with him being a rotational piece, right? But is Kai Havertz what we need on our front line moving forward? I don't think so. You've just said yourself, I don't think that's what we want to be seeing. But that's what we're going to get now, because this guy has put him on 290 a week and has made him the focal point at Arsenal.
But not if you go and get a better striker. The problem is that
that's why I don't think we will. That's why I don't think he wants to.
No, but who are the better strikers out there, Dan, that are achievable? Like for me, when we said earlier on that we're not massively excited by these two, and I stick by that. I've been saying that throughout the summer. Neither of them are a sure thing for me, right? The only two that for me feel like a sure thing are Alexander Isak, who we're never going to get, and Julian Alvarez. Those are my two.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. Is there anyone else?
No.
Is it right? Exactly. So if you're looking at it and you're going, there isn't anywhere else, then there has to be a part of you that feels not sympathy, because that's the wrong word, but has an understanding for the situation that we're in.
I would add Osimhen and Gyökeres to that, though.
Okay, so Gyökeres is one of them that we're supposed to be looking at, right? So fine. Osimhen, I'm not sure about Osimhen, but that's just my personal opinion. I understand why people...
Is he better than Havertz?
Yeah, as an out-and-out 9, yeah. But I don't think it's about Havertz. Like, I don't know why people keep making him the issue. Instead of looking at the problem of Havertz, where the hell would we be without Havertz? is a better way of looking at it. And I'll explain why. Because go back to the season before last, right? Not the one that's just ended, the one prior, where we took the title race to the final day and we lost out. That second half of the season, Kai Havertz was unbelievable. You got to admit, he was a big asset to the team at that point. Now, it's all good saying, oh, we should have got someone else and Havertz is the problem. But we didn't get someone else. So take Havertz out of the equation there, we would have been up shit street. Where would we have been the first half of this season when we were playing really poorly at times? And at times, Havertz was helping us get through games. You know, after his injury, after his injury, should have shone a light on the fact that he might not be the end goal and the solution, but he's certainly more of an asset than he is a problem. Go on.
All right, so let me come back on a couple of things there, right, which I disagree with you on. Havertz, for me, is a good footballer. I've never said that he's a shambles of a player. I didn't think he was a disgraceful signing. The reason I thought he was Arteta's worst signing is not in terms of his lack of quality, because he's obviously better than the likes of Vieira, etc. It's because we've spent an unbelievable amount of money on him, and he is basically going to have to now either live or die on that sword. That this was of a now he can't drop him because he's admitting that he's got it wrong. So he's going to have to now play him. If he doesn't play him up top, he's going to drop him back into bloody midfield, which is a disaster, as we've seen. Right now, you say, where would we be without him? He scored 14 goals the season before last, and he scored 9 last season. Last season, he got injured, funnily enough, by Mikel Arteta overplaying him again and telling him to run in training and an intensity training when he's supposed to be recuperating in Dubai. Then he gets injured and his bloody hamstrings falling off of his bone, and we stick Mikel Merino up there. I thought we looked better with Merino up top. I genuinely thought Merino, who I thought was poor in midfield. Come on, Harry, we did. Against Real Madrid, Merino looked... I thought Merino was one of our better players against Real Madrid, home and away. He was scoring as many. He's probably a better finisher than Havertz. This is how easy it is to replace Kai Havertz, Harry. This is what I'm saying to you. So when you say there's only Gyökeres and Sesko or Isak, or whatever it was you said, Isak and Alvarez, that could be better options for us than what we've got in Havertz, I think it's crap. We can get many better...
I didn't say that there's no better strikers in football outside of Isak and Alvarez than Kai Havertz. That's not what I said. What I said was that actually, instead of focusing on Havertz being a problem, because you're talking as if you've just said that you think he's a good footballer, but the reason he's a problem is because of the money. That is, Arteta has shown that he doesn't give a shit about that when it comes down to it. If he did, he wouldn't have convinced the club to pay off Aubameyang's contract. He wouldn't have done what he'd done to Mesut Ozil. If it was about money, if money was stopping Mikel Arteta from making tough decisions, then believe me, we wouldn't be where we are now. That's not where he's at. He doesn't wilt to that. He doesn't care. If he thinks that a player is bad and needs to go, he will make that ruthless decision. And I know it's a bit different because Havertz is someone that he personally brought in, but I could tell you 5 bigger problems that Arsenal had last season than Kai Havertz, and I have no idea why we keep going back to this guy and making him.
He's a squad player, bruv. He's a squad player. He ain't good enough to start for Arsenal.
So go out and get a striker that's better and let him be that squad player. I've got no issue with that.
But we won't be doing that. We're going to go and get Sesko, and we're going to have Havertz up top, and Sesko's going to be molded into the side. That's why it needs to be a Gyökeres, an Isak, or an Alvarez for me. And it ain't going to be that, bruv. We're going to go and get this Sesko guy, and we're going to let him mold into the team through Havertz, who we know is not going to win us a Premier League title. This is my big problem with Arsenal.
Okay, so what happens if we bring Gyökeres in and then Havertz still plays some games up front?
Fine by me if he's playing some games in a rotational piece, but Havertz is the rotational piece, not Sesko the rotational piece, or Gyökeres the rotational piece. Gyökeres has got to start if he plays, right? If we sign him, sorry. We can't be bringing in Gyökeres and still playing Havertz. And one thing we definitely can't do, bruv, is put this bloody guy back in midfield. Because if I see this guy playing in midfield any more times, I'm going to lose my head. Because this was a guy who was brought in to replace Granit Xhaka, by the way, that people have forgotten about. Yeah. And funny enough, the other guy that's supposed to upgrade Granit Xhaka in Merino was our striker last year as well. So we've still got much more money we're going to do to spend on this Xhaka report point, which me and you for about 7 years were arguing about. Yeah, if he was good or not.
Miss him now, don't we?
Well, he's available apparently, by the way. Don't worry,
he's going to Milan. He's going to Milan.
Oh, is he going to AC Milan? Mate, bro, how much money, real talk, have we spent on trying to replace Granit Xhaka? When he went on we went for 15 million. We spent 105 million on Rice, 30 odd on Marino. We spent 38 on bloody Fabi Vieira. We spent 65 M's on Havertz. None of them can hold down this number 8 position. Now we're giving it to Rice, who I still don't know I don't know what your thoughts are. If he's actually an 8, I still see him more as a 6. Like, do you know what I mean? These positions, how long is it going to take Mikel Arteta to fill these positions? We've got 17 left backs, 17 left 8s, a striker that we haven't managed to go and buy properly yet. Why is he okay to go and get the right side sorted or the centre back sorted? We're linked with another centre back, by the way, and he can't get the left hand side sorted. What is it wrong with this left hand side?
Yeah, but like you're looking at it from a really kind of, like, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but you're looking at it from a really basic point of view. You're going, we lost Granit Xhaka, we have to replace him. And we haven't done that.
Upgrading.
We bought Kai Havertz in initially as that. Actually, I give Mikel Arteta a bit of credit for going, you know what, this isn't going to work, and moving away from it, and then going again the following summer to bring in someone else that he thought could do that role. Again, that proves my point, though, doesn't it? Because I just said to you that I don't think that Arteta gives a shit about what was paid for a player and how much a player's salary is in terms of that impacting on his team selection. Well, if he bought Kai Havertz in as that 8 and spent all that money for that reason, if what you're saying is true, he wouldn't have abandoned the idea of Kai Havertz playing there as quickly as he did. He put him in at centre forward, because we needed a different option at centre forward. I think Kai Havertz came into his own when we moved him into centre forward. Is he a top category centre forward? No, he's not. But do you know what he does a hell of a lot better than Mikel Merino? Holds the ball up better. He runs the channels better. He battles more. He does things.
Havertz does.
Havertz is how many free kicks does Havertz win, but also concede? Because he's always in the mixture and he's always in those battles. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's rough around the edges. There's no question about that. But this idea that like Marino might be a better finisher, I'll give Mikel Merino that. But he's all-round game. We weren't a better team last season with Mikel Merino playing up front than we were when Kai Havertz was.
I thought we looked better.
We had some good standout games against Real Madrid where we were quite happy to play in a certain way, and it worked. But when push come to shove and we were trying to break down low blocks, there were plenty of games that have gone under the radar where Mikel Merino played at centre forward and barely touched the ball. And that's fact. You can go back.
There's been games where Kai Havertz has barely touched the ball. There's been games where Havertz has missed from a yard out against Newcastle and against Manchester United. To be fair to Marino, and I'm not a fan of Mikel Merino at all, and I actually think in midfield he's been a poor signing. I've got to be honest with you. The only reason that he was probably our best signing in the summer was because the others were abysmal, and he actually started to show something from the attacking areas when he was playing up top as a focal point. And I thought he actually brought Saka and Martinelli into the game a lot more. I thought Martinelli's game looked better towards the back end of the season with Marino than it did with Havertz. And I think Saka, to be fair to him, I'm not really going to count because he's brilliant either way, whoever he plays with, in my opinion. And he's probably the only attacker that Arteta's got anything out of. Let's just be real about it, H, yeah? He's the only one, in my opinion, Saka, that you can look at and go, oh, he looks 100%. Ready. The others 100%. Look shocking. So why is that? Why is Arteta...
But this is the point, Dan. Like, this is when I said there's 5 bigger problems than Kai Havertz. Because... everyone wants to focus on Kai Havertz, and I understand why, because there's been a need for a striker for a while. And while Kai Havertz has done an admirable job at times there, he's not the long-term solution. We agree on that. I'm not disputing that. But last season, we were without Saka for months, which impacted us because he's the one that you can rely on in that forward line to bring us outputs over and over again. We were without him. Martin Odegaard had a shockingly bad season. There's no getting around that. Gabriel Martinelli was massively inconsistent. Leandro Trossard never got near the numbers that he was getting, and he played a hell of a lot more football last season because of the injuries that we had. He was one of the few that stayed fit. Declan Rice only started contributing goals from that 8 position in the second half of the season. I'm not sitting here trying to shit on all of those players, but my point is that the problem is a collective one, and I don't understand why whenever we get into a summer, I know there's a need for a striker, but I don't understand why you prop up the Kai Havertz thing before you'll talk about any of those other players. Martinelli's been inconsistent for 2 seasons now. Why aren't we talking about that? Leandro Trossard is not top level. He's a good player. He's a good squad player, but he's not top level. Those two need improving on. just as much as we need to improve on Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard needs to buck up his ideas next season. Otherwise, you're going to start asking questions about whether he should be our captain moving forward. We had a lot of issues last season, some of them down to injuries, some of them down to selection, some of them down to individual performances not being great. I just struggle with the idea that Havertz is the biggest problem. I don't think
I
that's
don't think
true.
he's the biggest problem. I think the problem you've got with Havertz, and I'll say it again, is when you bring somebody in like Martinelli for 6 million on the left-hand side as a Brazilian, there's nowhere near as much pressure as there is as a marquee signing who's your highest earner on 65 M's. That's just the way it is. If you think that's unfair, that's cool, because we used to do the same with Pepe. I would argue that Pepe created more and looked better on the ball in a shockingly bad couple of seasons we had as a whole club than Havertz has done. And he was 72 M's and was putting in our top goal scorer, just like Havertz was. But we were shitting on Pepe. But now it's all right to go, oh, if Havertz isn't the problem. Look,
no, but
I'll make
we
it clear
weren't
again.
shitting on Pepe, though. Like, some people were shitting
most
on
people
Pepe.
were.
But yeah, but that doesn't mean that because most people were doing it, it's right. Most people in this country voted for Brexit, and look how we've ended up. The majority isn't
Let's
always
not
right.
go there.
Yeah, but the majority isn't always right, is the point that I'm trying to make. Like,
Yeah.
you can't get sucked into noise and allow your opinion to be swayed by that. I don't think Pepe was anywhere near as bad as people made him out to be.
Neither did I.
And I don't think Kai Havertz is as bad as people make them out to be. I never thought Granit Xhaka was as bad as people made him out to be. I'm consistent in that, at least. You've got to give me that.
Yeah, you are. You are consistent with that. Do you not agree, though, because we'll move from this topic, do you not agree that Havertz as a squad player is what Arsenal need, not Havertz as a starter? That's what we can both agree on, right? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
But given what we have right now, today, at the time of recording, June 17th, Havertz is a starter.
Yeah, he is.
Now he might not, if you want to get to that top level and achieve all the things that we're hoping to achieve, I agree that you need a top number 9, a proper marksman, someone that's going to score you goals, and someone that can be on the edges of a game and get one moment and take it. I absolutely agree with that. I just don't think that Kai Havertz is as big a problem as you think or as a lot of others think. I think that if we find the right striker and we go and get him, then Kai Havertz should play a supporting role at centre forward.